是非常相反。
Do not listen to that. Thank you, man. I know how it feels.
Shalom. Call Haloyim, La Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachaha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Shalom to you fellow laborers out there doing the work in truth and in sincerity, especially during these times. Shalom to the few Akwaf that believe as well. A hearty shalom to you other laborers and believers that are scattered throughout the face of the earth. Even if you're among the heathen, and even like the heathen who are the speckled bird Israelites, to the household of faith, which is the elect, I want to say shalom to you. As you can see, this is a commercial ad that played during the Super Bowl weekend, and I wanted to get to it, but Spirit didn't allow it to now. So, Lord willing, it's edifying, and I'm gonna dive right into it because this is another weak attempt for these tiny tops or small hats to try to grab the emotions of the people. All right. And to ultimately deter, the hate and them being despised, all right, by the whole, world, basically. And I'm talking about all the peoples, man, are starting to hate these, these tiny tops, man. Okay. The J-ish people. And it's a reason for it. All right, when you know their history, when you know that they've been kicked out of over 100 countries, and the reason why it was done, then you'll understand why people have come to the point where they just show up and show their hatred for these people, because these people, they are behind the world's excuse me, they are behind the world's problems. Okay, when you look at this engineered famine, engineered wars, you name it. All right, these countries, governments being destabilized, being toppled, it's all stemming from these tiny tops. And now, with the Epstein files being out, and they haven't even released all of it, and they're doing a lot of redacting of a lot of those files, because they want to hide the fact, which they can't hide it now. I mean, cat's out the bag, but they were trying to hide the fact that their leaders are the number one reason, all right, for their country's failing, morally, economically, as far as the economy of each country is on the brink of collapse. That's why you see most countries going digital. And we know that the CBDC, which is the central bank digital currency, is been talked about, or being talked about, because it's been on the table for some time now. And who's behind that? The tiny tops. So everything is tying in to these tiny tops, these J-ish people, and people still in a uproar and outraged about, the genocide that's been going on over in Gaza. You look at what's going on down here in Central South America and through the so-called Latin countries. those J-ish people are behind it, and it's been made public, of why Venezuela, is why their president, rightfully elected president, or the legitimate president, Nicolas Maduro, was kidnapped, and then all of a sudden you had oil being sent to Israel, the state of Israel, and they'll portray it in the news as though they gotten the oil through trade or business deal or honest dealings, in which we know the truth that they got it through unrighteous dealings. So it's a lot of things that's causing people to, in other words, because to sum it all up, it's a lot of things that's causing people to hate these tiny tops, I mean, the Epstein files just revealed basically the things they do or were doing in the darkness, but it came to light. And the very thing you see in the Epstein files that's been released, and keep in mind, they got video recording and all kind of shit of what they were doing. They were videotaping it, There's video and audio record. So the very things that was going on Epstein Island is the very reason, these people were getting kicked out of roughly over 100 countries. So everybody waking up to these tiny tops, man. Let's get some precepts, because, like I said, this ad and the Super Bowl commercials was a weak attempt to gain control of the people's emotions. Okay, but let's get this real quick. Excuse me. The book of Obadiah 1 and 2. It says, "Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised." See? And you read up, it's talking about what? Edom, okay? It says Edom will be humbled, okay? Now you read verse 2 in the NLT, or AMP, I'm sorry, the Amplified version. It says, "Behold, Edom, I shall humiliate you and make you small among the nations," which the word small goes to insignificant. "You are greatly despised," meaning hated. Okay. Verse 3 on the KJV, it says, "The pride of thine heart had deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock." Yeah, you Caucasian people, man. All right, that's where the term Caucasian comes from. Okay, you live in the clefts of the rocks. All right, and at a couple points in your history, because it's a part of your history. It's just part of your dwelling. Going back to Mount Seir, and then you have the Caucasus regions, even over in Europe. All right, or Asia, where you were living in the caves of the rocks and the mountains. Okay. It says, "Whose habitation is high, that said in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?" And this is the mindset of these tiny tops, But the point is, they're being greatly despised right now. And it's all, like I said, on display why you're being hated, okay? And it starts with, the exposure of your wickedness and you pushing decadence on the people, because for the very things that you're doing, especially with the Epstein shit. You notice like the top small hats were being named from the Rothschilds on down, which the Rothschilds, they're the top banking family. They're always involved, okay? They're always involved, okay? And then the fact that they're saying that that this dude can be over in the state of Israel right now. This Jeffrey Epstein guy, and also Ghislaine Maxwell. So whether that's true or not, it'll all be revealed, but that got people in the uproar as well. Because they do have a law of return. Just look it up on your own time, and you'll see about the law of return. Okay, but here's the definition for decadence. It says moral or cultural decline as characterized by excessive indulgence in pleasure or luxury. Right. Moral or cultural decline. And you look at America, man, America has been there for the longest. But who set up America? Who controls America? It starts with the banking elite families. The elite families of Esau are the different families which go back to the tribe of Amalek, which are the modern day Chaldeans, okay? The Chaldees today, because you had the Chaldees, which was the elite class of the old Babylonian or Neo-Babylonian kingdom. Today they're known as the elite banking families. Okay, they would be the equivalent of the Chaldeans. Okay, and they push this moral and cultural decay on the people because especially with Jake, you look at these different music companies, who they're owned by. It's always these small hats, these tiny top people, man. But this is something that the scriptures say that will happen. Okay? Let's grab this real quick. Psalms 12 and verse 8. The wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. So the word vilest, right, when you look it up, let me see. Vilest, it means unpleasant. Let's go to the similar to. It says unpleasant, bad, disagreeable, horrid, horrible, atrocious. Repugnant, disgusting, distasteful, hateful, loathsome, sickening, wretched, disgraceful. And we know that Habakkuk 2 and 16 says there should be a shameful spewing on his glory. And we're watching that, and the whole world is watching the shameful spewing on Esau's glory. Okay, his glory has been turned into shame, pretty much. It says deplorable, abhorrent, heinous, wicked. Well, Job 9 and 24. Let's get that real quick. And it reads, Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Right. Who's the wicked? Malachi 1 and 4. All right, the Edomites, the border of wickedness, man. All right, who's in power? Who's in the ruling seat? The Edomites. Okay. And this is the reason why you have wickedness, all right, at an all-time high. One of the reasons why the Lord is going to punish them the way he's going to punish them, because of the wickedness that's been spread throughout the globe and put on the pedestal by these damn Edomites. Let's grab a precept real quick. It says, the book of 2nd Esdras, in verse 6. Well, I'll start at 5. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Yeah. Because, like I said, decadence, all right, it's at an all-time high. And the people that pushes or basically indoctrinate people, or the people in decadence, morally flaws, all right, repugnant, and wickedness. The people that push that are in the ruling seat. And that begins with the tiny tops, man. This is why they don't live by they say the Torah, the five books of Moses. They don't live by the law of Moses, which was given to him by the Lord. These people don't live by it. Because if they did, it would reflect. Because Habakkuk 1:4 says what? It says the law is slack. See? And we know that upon returning to the land by way of the chariots, all right, when the true biblical Israelites return to the land, that the law of the Lord will be pushed throughout the earth, and the heathen will seek after the laws of the Lord through the sons of Jacob, the sons of Israel. Because we're going to be a kingdom of kings and priests. But it says, for wickedness had exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. See? And that's why the scriptures say what? The evil is sown. The evil have been sown, all right, through the rulership of the wicked. And all we're waiting on is the judgment of the Lord. But there's a buildup to that great judgment that we're waiting to see happen to the wicked. All right, which the greatest judgment is the Lord's going to, rain fire upon them. But let's go back here. Because like I said, it starts with the elites. And the elites are a people of no value. Because that's what the word no value goes to. Of low value or no value. Okay. This is Ecclesiastes 16. Because you look at who involved even in the files. It's all your leaders, man. All your leaders are freaks, man. And weirdos. All of them. This is why Pam Bundy said that if they were to prosecute people involved, the whole system would fail. And we know that they're not going to be prosecuted. Because it says in Psalm 73 that what? They are not in trouble as other men. So if there was a ring full of Jake being, pedos and doing all kind of wicked sacrifices and shit, and Esau wasn't involved with this Jake thing, they all would be outed and prosecuted. And now they're even trying to turn the attention to the Jakes that's joining to him, which, you know, the Lord's exposing them to. But Jake is not the ones that's, you know, that's solely responsible, though they participated, some of them, you know. The ones that's solely responsible are you tiny tops, okay? Because Jeffrey Epstein had connections to, well, he said he worked, he said out of his own words, he worked directly, you know, for the Rothschilds. That's why he was able to rub elbows with everyone. You know, not only he's a J-ish people, he's one of them. He's a small hat himself, but he worked directly for the top Amalekite family, the Rothschilds themselves. Okay, so he was plugged in fully. Okay, and they're all immoral, man. They're all immoral people. Okay, Ecclesiastes 10:16. It says, woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child and thy princes eat in the morning. Right. You got the word king just means ruler, but your king or your rulers in general, all right, are unwise, man. Let me look up the word child, see what it goes into. It says Nayar says Strong's definition. Says from the age of infancy to adolescence. No, not that. Let me see. Bear me 1 second. I'm trying to see. Oh yeah, I'm on the lexicon. Because let me see. Let me go to Google. Yeah, man. Let me see here. Okay. It says the negative interpretation. Well, what other interpretation there's to be when it's comparing a king to a child? You know, but it says lack of maturity. The ruler may be impulsive, self-centered, or prone to temper tantrums when they do not get their way. Well, Trump is doing that shit. You know, naive or gullible, lacking the cynicism or experience of an adult. They may be easily manipulated by advisors. Well, that's going on with Narrow Trump. Those tiny tops got those advisors, you know, those the J-ish advisors around him to instruct them on what to do according to their plan, according to their agenda and enterprise, right? irresponsible decision making. They might prioritize short-term amusement or petty personal desires over long-term stability or the well-being of their kingdom. See? Well, that's the scripture. Let's get this. Sirach 10. Because that's exactly what's going on. Okay, Sirach 10:1, it says, a wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. Right. See, Esau is a base man. You know, as the scriptures call them, base men, children of fools. See? Because the flip side to a king being likened unto a child is, you having a wise king. Back in Ecclesiastes 10:17, blessed art thou, O land, when thy king is the son of nobles, and thy princes eat in due season for strength and not for drunkenness. Right? Because you go into ancient times, a noble family was a family that was well brought up. You know, they know about history. They know about, basically how to be royal, as far as etiquette, the way you think, move with wisdom. They would be instructed on how to govern a people. When you go into the typical ancient noble families, okay, it was a certain way they lived. It was a certain way they lived to let you know that they were on a different level intellectually more than the rest or the overwhelming majority. You always had your ones that were nobles of each people. Like among our people, you had the kings. Some were, wise, some were not, or some were wicked, some were righteous. Among our ancestors, then you had the ultimate ones that were wise, were the servants of prophets. They're likened into nobles as well, because often they came from noble families. Son of a prophet. His dad served the Lord. He stood in his father's stead. Once his father's service was done, he went to the spirit world. He left a son behind that, was likened unto himself. Like the priests, the Levites. They had a basically a different ordering within our nation because of their duties, okay, of ensuring the law was being executed. So you had the Levites. They wasn't living like the average Israelite. Their life was more strict, so to speak. Okay, as it were, the royal families as well. But just an example. Okay, so when your king is the son of nobles, that's the king that's wise. In other words, so back in Ecclesiasticus or Sirach 10:2, it says, "As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein." See? And you look at this, Epstein file thing, where they're trying to turn it or switch it to them being hated or you being sentimental. No, it's not anti-sentimental. You're not anti this or that because you see these people for who they are. That's not hatred because you point out some evil or wicked thing they're doing. But that's the typical card they play to try and demonize you, to throw you off, all right, and to, basically cause the people to, hate you or abhor you or just be against you in general, because that's their whole aim, is to blind the people from the truth, Anyways, verse 3, an unwise king destroyed his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. See? And that's what's going on within Esau's kingdom. All right, they're unwise, man. Again, they're base men, children of fools, Let me see here. The book of Job. Job 30 and verse 8, it says, they were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. All right, to go to that word viler, meaning, the root word is vile. But the word vile itself, again, means what? Morally bad, wicked. Right, even on the etymon, okay, the etymon, we get that, right? The etymon says this for the word vile: morally repugnant, morally flawed, corrupt, wicked, of no value, of inferior quality, man. No, physically repulsive through filth or corruption. Disgusting. And that's obviously what was going on, man. Disgusting things, man. So when you look at it, the whole system of Esau is corrupt. People see you for the violent, wicked man that you are. Here it is, even right now, they're spoiling these different countries in Central and Latin America. Oh, they got a blockade over in Cuba, basically causing or engineering a famine in Cuba. And nothing has been done about it right now. The whole world is watching. Why? Because it's in the power of their hands. Let me get that real quick before I get to second precept. Micah 2 and 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And that's exactly why they're doing it, man. Okay? Verse 2. And they covet fields and take them by violence. And you look at Cuba. Cuba has resources, that's valuable. Like right now they have a thing where Cuba needs oil because they don't produce a lot of oil, but they have other things they produce as far as the domestic products that they were able to sell and trade for other resources from other countries. But they have a total blockade on Cuba, which the elites are doing it through America, Babylon the Great. So it says, and they covet fields and take them by violence. A way of violence is cutting a country off economically by having a blockade upon its goods. They can't buy and sell or trade things to get the different goods they need for the people of Cuba. So they basically are being besieged. You know, you look at what's going on in Venezuela. Or look at Chile. Look at Chile. They passed the act through this. I forget the president's name, but it's a law where they passed on behalf of the tiny tops that allows foreigners to buy private or just Chilean land in general. And guess who's buying the land? The goddamn tiny tops. The same people that's crying foul play now that people are showing their hatred towards them. And basically people are just protesting against their wickedness, man. So it's not really hatred they're showing. But people show their hatred through what? Protests. So it's not violence, but through protesting the government. Okay? So it says, and they take them by violence in houses, and they take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even the man in his heritage. And that's exactly what is going on with Cuba, Venezuela, Chile, Nigeria or Somalia, all these different countries where the tiny tops got America, invading. That's what's going on. And pretty much, that's being exposed to the tiny tops being directly involved. So you got literally the American military or government that sends out the military to invade these different lands and take over the government and seize the resources. The tiny tops are directly involved with that. See? But they'll throw this commercial out there to try to, gain your emotions into, feeling sorry for them like they're the victims. And you're not the victim. Okay? This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 8. It says, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. And that's what these Edomites have done. They have spoiled many nations, man. And they're not in trouble as other men. So they're not being brought to justice, man. Because the Lord's going to bring them to justice. That's why they're able to do the things they're doing. See? But the scriptures say what? That the joy of the hypocrite, right? What's that, Job? Let me get that real quick. Because you better believe these tiny tops are bragging and boasting about what they're doing, man. So this is Job 20 and verse 4. Knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment? See? And you're at the end of that moment, man. The Lord's going to rise against you for what you've done to the poor. And who is the poor? We are. Us Israelites, ultimately. Because those Central Atlantic countries that you're destroying, even over the land of Ham, Nigeria, and these different places where you're at, for the most part, most of these countries have a heavy population of Israelites. You know, it says that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. Though his excellency mount to the heavens, and his head reach unto the clouds. Yeah, because he's puffed up in his pride. Okay, let's read the NLT. Though the pride of the godless reaches to the heavens, and their heads touch the clouds. See, and he has pride. Believe you me, he's full of pride. It says, yet they will vanish forever, thrown away like their own dung. Yeah. And that's the judgment of the wicked. Okay? They're gonna be done away with after their 1,000 years of slavery. You know? So again, it's all being exposed why you're being hated or despised. And it has nothing to do with anti this or anti that. It's all because you are the wicked, and the Lord is causing the world to rise up against you. The nations, rather. Even of your own people. Even of your own people, they're rising up against you, man. Which that's another thing in itself. It says a nation that's divided cannot stand in the book of Mark, the 3rd chapter. You know? Edomites in other countries don't like the Edomites over here. You know? Because of the decadence. You know? You got some countries where they don't allow same sex. But over in America, over in Babylon the Great, that's a thing that's put on the pedestal. All right, they pedestalize it. They pedestalize, that thing over here in America, dealing with same sex, bestiality, pedo, all kind of shit. See, that's why this place is called what? The mother of harlots. Okay, that's how this man transgressed with his wine, indoctrinating the people through his vain philosophies and ways of living, which is all coming to an end, man. It's coming to an end. And that's what the scriptures say. Oh, let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end. And we're at the end of the wicked's rulership. And that's a beautiful sign for us Israelites that believe. Because this place vexes us day to day, with the filthiness of their doings. So, with that, I'm going to close. And I want to say, Lord willing, this video has been edifying to the hopefully elect. All praise and glory be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash. I want to say shalom to the Lord's elect. And hopefully you brothers and sisters were edified. To then, I want to bid you a shalom and a Bible ball. Shalom.